I'm Jawapunk.
And welcome to the One Piece Forum YouTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing devil fruits.
Yep. So, devil fruits are probably the weirdest things in any kind of manga series out so far. They are literally a fruit thing that tastes horrible. You pick it up, you eat it, and you get any kind of power that doesn't appear to have a real limit to what you can get. So today we're going to be talking about devil fruits in terms of theories on how they originated and where they could have originated from. We're going to be discussing how they work, and we're also going to be discussing the limits. So where do they
Yep.
stop?
Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll start with origins. So I have a very kind of loose theory, but before that I'll give you some like brief background into what we know about devil fruits. They are said to be the incarnations of the sea devil, and once you use it eats them, they gain the power, but they lose the ability to swim. And one thing that's not really questioned so much in terms of the abilities is where they come from. We know sort of vaguely about the idea of devils. It was explained in Dressrosa by some henchmen that the fruits have actual devils inside of them, and when the user dies, the devil leaves the fruit, and no, the devil leaves the body and goes to another fruit. Sorry, yeah. So the main question is, where do the devils come from? And one of my theories revolves around the abilities of Zoro and Sanji, and Asura and Diablo Jamba, because they're relatively unique in terms of what we've seen, and they're not things that like can be naturally done. It's not something like obvious side effect of something like haki, for example. So my theory basically says, is this sort of the early beginnings of a devil fruit ability, whether it be mythical Zoan in Zoro's case, or even in Sanji's as well. We see that, and then there's the aspect of the devils. Is that something to do with their soul? Is that their soul then becomes a devil somehow, or does this so-called sea devil recognize this ability and use it as sort of a blueprint for an actual devil fruit?
Okay. The reason I like this theory, and I think it's something that is really out there, and I rarely like out there theories, but I really like this one because it sort of touched on a lot of things that have almost been disregarded, like the idea of the sea devil. That's something that hasn't been touched on at all from the point that Morgan said it till the present. So we're talking 820 something chapters, well, to this day, that has not been referenced to the Sea Devil, at least not to memory. I hope not, that'd be awkward. Anyway, but yeah. So it sounds like there's this living organism, and your theory sort of really picks up on that, and it takes it to another level where it's like this Sea Devil is sentient. It can make fruits, and it can examine it. It seems to have some kind of omnipresent aspect where it can look at everything that's happening in the world, and it'll look at people like Zoro and Sanji and be like, wow, that's a really nice ability to sort of project your soul or to do any kind of thing, and then be able to say, I'm gonna make a fruit out of it, or I'm gonna release a devil. So it's like I'm like a devil. It makes devils. Like I don't know. I really like it, and I've always been sort of attracted to the idea of a sentient power behind devil fruits. So probably the reason I really really love this theory.
Yeah, and then another thing that's sort of been theorized about, but I don't think there's any manga evidence for it, is a devil fruit tree.
Yep.
Some people theorize that this was the treasure that Doflamingo was talking about in Marijoa. I personally don't think it's like a thing, because then you'd have devil fruits spawning all in the same place, and you wouldn't be able to find them. For example, in East Blue, you wouldn't be able to find them along the Grand Line.
Yep. The thing with the devil fruit tree is that there's so much like pros and cons in a sense because you have to consider like a devil fruit. Just those two words, they say quite a bit, right? And this isn't me over analyzing, I hope, but you think the word devil, it means, devil obviously taken from that sort of Christian thing where you have Satan and bad guys. So devil meaning bad, and then the fruit aspect. And the fruit is, logically, one of the definitions of a fruit is that it comes from a tree. Hence, decent theory, there's a tree that spawns devil fruits. Practically, though, up until now, we haven't seen anything like this. And it's like, if there was a tree, and there's so much, what ifs, especially when it comes to theorizing. So if there was a tree, why isn't the government sort of having 5 warships around it with a whole bunch of fruit baskets or whatever you're needing to collect devil fruits, collecting devil fruits, giving them to Marines, and then just prohibiting any pirate from getting their hands on one? Like, we haven't, and like, the source of devil fruits, like, they're a natural resource, and they're essentially an exploited natural resource, no different to fossil fuels in our world. So, like, they exist in nature, and it's sort of like the first person to get to them gets that advantage, like oil, etc., in the ground. So, natural resource wars would have definitely happened by now. Devil fruits are such a rare commodity, like, there's no way that you can sort of have something that powerful and then just be like, oh, I'm sure there's a tree somewhere, we can't find it, I'm sure it's just there spawning fruits and we'll just trust whatever. I don't even know what could bring a fruit along that wouldn't be interested in squatting the tree itself. So yeah, there's a logic behind it. Fruits come from trees, but then practically I don't think we have enough information to say there is one.
Yeah. Okay, next. Talking about mechanisms, like we know about the different classifications of Paramecia, Logia, Zoan, and Jawahib has done quite the thread about all the classifications and things, and we'll leave a link in the description for that, but it'd take far too long for us to go like really into depth of that, so we'll just kind of skip over it. I mentioned the devil fruit cycle that was explained to us in Dressrosa, with the idea of a devil within a fruit, but one thing, like, linking to that is Blackbeard at Marineford, when he manages to take Whitebeard's ability. I think possibly that this is maybe he knows how the devils work. We know that Vegapunk does. Do you think that the actual mechanism behind the devil is something that isn't like as rare knowledge as we think it is?
Kobe made a comment that was like, Vegapunk, and we have to bear in mind that Vegapunk, in a world that's 500 years behind us, is developing technology that's 500 years ahead of us. And Kobe has told us that Vegapunk has discovered the secret to devil fruits. I'm pretty sure he told that to Luffy when they re-met after Enies Lobby. So Vegapunk, I have no doubt, well, not doubt, I have no problem believing that he would know the secret to devil fruits, only because of how scientifically advanced he is and, what a mega nerd he is, right? So, and obviously we've named our own selves today, Marco Punk and Jawapunk, after the legendary Vegapunk. So, he's not something to just be like, oh, if Vegapunk knows it, everyone knows it. I'm pretty sure it's something very rare. But if we can, like, sort of touch on my theory, which is that there's a lot in common with yours in that it's all about devils. And I reckon that devils are... They can come from a tree, but I don't think it's a tree for the reasons I mentioned before.
Yeah.
But what's created aren't fruits, they're devils. And the devils are the ones that go around and inhabit sort of the fruits. So you see something very similar to what I'm talking about when Smiley died. So Smiley being the giant axolotl fruit-eating monster that Caesar developed. When he died, a sort of fruit started pulsing, a nearby fruit. I think Caesar had a basket nearby to memory. And it started pulsing, and then there was the devil fruit. It just spawned, right? And so that sort of craps on the idea that they originate from a single source and nowhere else, because we definitely see a non-devil fruit become a devil fruit. So this devil fruit sort of, it has a consciousness and awareness, but it doesn't think cohesively. It's not intellectual. It just has a being. So it knows it has to move around, and it knows it has to give these kind of powers to people who eat them, and it knows... When I'm in a fruit, I don't give the fruit powers, but I just wait for someone to eat the fruit and therefore get the powers. So with that in mind, when we touch on the theories of Blackbeard, right, and I vehemently reject the Cerberus theories as to how he got the extra devil fruit, I believe that the devil, or that the devil inside the Yami Yami no Mi, the darkness fruit, that has a greater presence, a dominance about it that subjects other devils to it, on top of its sort of gravitational pulling suction abilities. So we're talking when I saw him sucking an ace, and he said something along the lines of, "I've sucked your devil fruit power out." I thought that was a permanent thing. I thought that was like Blackbeard had ripped the devil out of Ace's body, which we now know since Dressrosa is a process that would kill a person. I think that it's a temporary contact. So Blackbeard will sort of suck in that devil, and he will say,
Yeah.
"You are now under my control." And
Yeah.
then when Blackbeard then punched Ace away, the devil would then return back to its original state in
Mm.
Ace. And then very similar story happened with Whitebeard. So Whitebeard's now dead, and his devil, the Gura Gura fruit devil spirit thing, is now sort of wandering around. And I think I would say that the reason that the black covering was on more than just Oda being ooh spooky is
Yeah.
that that darkness confuses the spirit. It says, I don't know where I am. Normally it's suited to like a guy's dead, I'm gonna run
Yeah.
away and find a fruit. But this is like,
Mm.
oh, I don't know where I'm going. And then Blackbeard takes that advantage in its confusion because I don't know how fast these things move. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
guess at that. But Blackbeard then goes, I'm gonna suck you in now, almost as though he was in a body. But he
Yeah.
sucks up that devil fruit spirit and he says, you are now working for me and I have your power. You are going to treat me not as a fruit, so no one has to eat me to get the Gura Gura powers, but you're going to
Yeah.
treat me as though I ate your fruit, even though I haven't. You could similarly argue that he had a fruit nearby and just used that and ate it, but I think that really would take away from Blackbeard's thing, and also it wouldn't explain how he manages to have two devil fruit powers at the same time. So yeah, that's that theory.
No, I agree completely with that. Like,
Yes.
there is a quote when in that fight with Ace, which is darkness absorbs everything. So
Yeah.
I could see him being able to absorb a devil. I We don't know if he still has it. I would hazard a guess that he does, but then at the same time, if he can absorb and release at his will, then he could have gotten rid of it and he could have replaced it with another ability.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the whole purpose of his crew and having devil fruit hunters, is that they go and they collect fruits to Blackbeard, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Cerberus theory, which I really hate, like I said, the Cerberus
It's
theory
all-
can't explain why um the Blackbeard crew are still hunting down devil fruit users. If he can only take
Yeah.
a maximum of 3, then what's the point? He would just find probably the strongest zone type or something and just use that. So yeah, I think he can just take in as many as he wants, and then Luffy's gonna come in and just give him a fist fight that he can't see coming.
Yeah. Another aspect of devil fruit mechanisms is smiles, because those are artificially made, and we assume that they don't have a devil.
Yep.
So, I mean, you have a pretty nice theory as to how they work.
This isn't so much of a build on as my old theories, it's something completely different. So we know that up until now, Smiles and what are the SAD? That's only used to manufacture zone type fruits, nothing else, right? So and it's got a sort of unpredictability factor which Momonosuke is subjected to at the moment. So he doesn't know, I'm a Chinese dragon, I'm a human, I can't control when it goes. I will
Yeah.
sneeze and it will go. I'll try my best and it won't go. I don't know. So I was thinking like we have characters, and this is a bit out there, but why not? We have characters like Spider-Man from the Marvel world. We have characters like, I don't know, say the Hulk, for example, right? And these people are, superheroes, and they almost turn into different kind of animals. And I sort of made a connection where it's like, well, the thing that made them go crazy, or made them get their powers in Marvel, was radiation. Radiation doesn't seem to be so far out of the hands of someone like Vegapunk, and we consider like all the sort of the storage of SAD. To memory, there was a radioactive sign on one of them. I think it had the circle
Yeah.
with that fan-looking thing.
Yeah.
So like, I think personally that it's radiation, and the reason that I would sort of say no, he can't make legitimate devil fruits and they have to be artificial, is
Yeah.
because how can you make a spirit? Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't seem something that's within human reach. It seems spirits and devils have to be naturally sort of created, whereas you pump a whole bunch of, I don't know, animal DNA mutilated radioactive material. I don't know, I'm not a scientist. But you pump a whole bunch of that into a fruit, and you're like, okay, you can now turn into a platypus. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Nah, like I like that, and it kind of links into something that Trafalgar Law said on the way out of Punk Hazard to do with how devil fruits work, and he says that the devil fruit works by affecting a person's lineage factor in their blood.
Yeah.
And after like hours of Google searching and Google translating like original Japanese words, basically what I found is that lineage factors essentially are genes, and what you're saying about the Marvel abilities is the radiation affects their genes, and it's what makes Spider-Man be able to shoot webs and stuff.
Yep.
So I think that ties in like pretty nicely with how actual devil fruits work, and I could see that being a thing for Smiles as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, and last but not least, limitations of devil fruits. Again, it's another Jawa discussion about the limits of Logia types, but I have stuff to add. So
Okay, well, this isn't so much of a theory as it is just me like thinking out loud.
yeah,
So, just for some background, I was thinking sort of Blackbeard has a move called Black Hole. He sucks in stuff. Obviously, this is modeled off a legitimate black hole, which has a whole bunch of gravity and it can suck in things and we can't see them, whatever. A lot of physics behind it. So, I was thinking, what if Blackbeard, because we don't know what his darkness is made out of, and he uses a move called Dark Matter, which, black holes are made of dark matter. So, if his blackness is dark matter, what would stop him making a legitimately sized black hole? And black holes are obviously massive. I think they're like at least the size of a galaxy. I could be wrong. I might be crazy, but they're pretty damn big. So apart from time, because Blackbeard can't live to be infinity, what would stop Blackbeard just sitting on his bum and just making a whole bunch of darkness that just covers a whole bunch of space? And along that line of thought, you can start asking questions like, what stops someone like a Kainu melting the entire ocean? What stops someone like Aokiji freezing the entire ocean? What stops someone like the dude Karibu? What stops him just making the entire freaking world a swamp? Like, where does that sort of power stop? Because if you give this power to a fruit, or a Paramecia fruit that can make stuff like Magellan or Mr. 3, or a Logia type who can make stuff like every Logia type, where does the cutoff happen where they stop making stuff, or they become weaker as a result of, overextending themselves? Is there an overextension, or can they just go on forever? So, this leads me to the question, are Logia types overpowered, or how are they limited? Because we have received almost no sort of boundaries. We've no hints as to say, oh, well, clearly Logias can't make more than, I don't know, 10 cubic kilometers out of material. Like, we haven't been given any kind of reference like that. So, I don't think I've asked you yet. So what are your thoughts on when do you think they stop?
Yeah, I can't really say with regards to Logias because we have no evidence, but what we've seen from like two Paramecia types in particular, Bartolomeo and Law, show that devil fruits do have limits. We see Bartolomeo when he's trying to make barriers in Dressrosa. He makes the stairs for Luffy, but then he doesn't have enough barrier left to protect himself, and he says, I can only make so much barrier. And then we see with Law as well with the rooms. The bigger rooms take more energy out of him. And if he's used up all his stamina and still wants to make a room, he has to eat into his own life force essentially to be able to have a room going on. And I think those same limits will apply to Logias. Like I can't give you like an exact quantity like, oh, Blackbeard can produce this many cubic meters of darkness. It's more I think something that grows with the user, because obviously there's the whole awakening thing with devil fruits. And as they obviously that's implying that they're mastering their ability the longer they have it. So again, at the start, I guess there would be a fairly standard kind of you can do this much, but as the individual gets stronger and as they begin to learn their abilities and find creative ways of using them, and we've seen a lot of those, like just from Luffy, but other characters you can see other ways that they've used their devil fruit creatively, like Ace with his firefighting the green light things, like that. So as like obviously as they master it and they learn new techniques with it, they sort of surpass their limits in like a very kind of shonen kind of way.
Yep.
So basically, the stronger they are, the more they can do
Yep.
is kind of what I think with regards to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can greatly respect that. I also think that if there was to be a known limit, and if Oda has to announce, and we've also, I think you forgot to mention Buggy. Buggy was also
oh
given a
yeah,
sphere. Yeah, Oda gave him a sphere where he can operate in. So even though none of those three sort of produce matter in mass quantities, like a Logia type, I think
yeah,
they are a fair indication. All three of them are sort of limited by a sort of personalized means, because Bartolomeo doesn't appear to exert any effort when he makes a barrier, whereas Law does. So Law can make a room as big as he likes, but he has to eat into his own life force to do it, whereas Bartolomeo can make as much barrier as he wants without exerting himself, but he has a limit to the quantity there. And then Buggy is now limited to range. So it's almost as though
yeah,
each limitation is personalized for every single Devil Fruit, and that's something I find, personally, I think is pretty weird. Like, what if I think I'd prefer standardized sort of all stamina, because then it's like, oh, maybe Akaji is limited to this many
yeah.
meters and Akainu is this many meters, and it's just like, oh well, can it get this hot, that hot? Not really. So I'd prefer standardized, but I mean it looks like they're all individualized, and that
Yeah.
sort of leads me to the questioning.
Yeah, I think a lot of that could well be down to sort of differences in ability within the individual as well. Like, I mean, we haven't seen Buggy for 2 years, so maybe he can operate within a larger domain now.
Yeah,
We
true.
don't know. We don't know. And I'm guessing Doflamingo, when he just ate his Devil Fruit, wouldn't be able to make a perfect string clone and do the birdcage kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we touched on it a bit, but awakenings, awakenings, and this whole idea of there being a next level of Devil Fruit. How far do you think that can plausibly go?
Okay. We know way too little about awakenings at this stage. It's like, oh, Doflamingo can go from shooting strings to making the ground turn into strings. And I'm pretty sure Zone Awakenings have included the Koala, the Minotauros, and Chopper's final form, which
Yeah,
he accesses through Rumble Ball. So those are the kind of the Zone Awakenings. Um, so we are yet to see a Logia Awakening, which would be interesting.
yeah,
I wonder what that's going to look like. But I mean, we can't really draw, like, there's no, I don't know, what do you call it, the burden of proof, the scientific burden of proof, because we haven't got three examples
yeah,
of a Paramecia Awakening. I
yeah,
think that they will all be personalized by Oda in such a way that it is impossible to quantify how far they go. I can't
yeah,
say, because if we follow the pattern established by Doflamingo, we can say, oh well, Luffy can turn the nearby surroundings into rubber, but that's just useless. Like,
yeah,
what are you gonna do? Like, make a spring mat for yourself and sort of just bounce around even more than you already do? Like,
yeah,
and I feel like Oda's definitely not gonna injustice Luffy's awakening in that way, considering he's the damn protagonist. And if you're gonna give us a
yeah,
make the place into a rubber children's playground as your final ability, it's kind of disappointing. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, I think Awakenings are Oda's way of saying, even more so than the Paramecias, which get pretty damn weird, are Oda's way of
yeah,
just going, I like making the rules and I like screwing around a lot, and I'm gonna justify it, using sort of this one weird logic. I'm gonna say I'm gonna let Devil Fruits go even higher. I'm gonna not
yeah.
tell you how far they go, and I'm gonna make the rules every single time, which is not bad. I like it, but
No, I agree with you about the whole personalized thing because we see with the Mera enemy, Ace and Sabo use it in very different ways.
yep,
So it'd be kind of natural that a person's awakening wouldn't exactly be the same. Like again, like using Luffy as an example, having like a giant like space of rubber would be pretty useless for him.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know possibly what you could see. There've been like theories online about like a monkey god or like a
yeah,
fifth gear that they look kind of cool, but then the more I think about it, they don't really fit into exactly into the concepts or whatever. They take more
yep,
out of
Luffy,
mythology. They take more out of like
yeah,
the monkey goblin, for example, takes out from Sun Wukong,
yep,
which doesn't really have anything to do with devil fruits,
yep,
if you know what I mean.
yeah,
So if he does awaken it, and I'm sure it'll be pretty incredible, like we it won't be something that we could like possibly predict because nobody could have predicted what Gear Fourth would have looked like.
true,
Like no way. As many people as there were saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a muscle gear," no one would have predicted like he just turned into this giant balloon,
yep,
basically. So Yeah, it's something that we'll kind of have to see a person awaken it and see how they do it,
Yeah,
and then we just kind of have to accept that that's how that fruit awakens.
yeah,
Even if someone else were to take the ability and it were to awaken in a completely different way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is all I think for today.
Okay, so
Yeah.
thank you for watching. Do you want to say the normal spiel?
Yeah. Frankie Mapache will be doing a chapter
Yes.
review every time there's a chapter because, I mean, Oda's just had a long holiday, a long holiday. Zeke is doing top tens. I don't know if that's exclusively what he's going to be doing, but he'll be doing more stuff. So look out for that. That's been pretty popular. And Marco and Jawa, the A team, we're gonna produce something again sooner or later.
One
So
day.
so that one day we'll get something out. Um, so I guess that's all from us. I mean, Hodi for Nakama.
Yeah, yeah. Hori for Nakama.
Hodi for Nakama. It's Marco out.
Jawa out.